What up, nerds? Welcome to another eye-opening episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name's Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 324, recorded on Sunday, June 20th, 2021, also known as Daddy's Day. Tonight, we're going to be talking about our final Patreon pick for the second quarter of 2021. The movie is Butterfly Kisses from 2018, and it was chosen by the one, the only, Simon. Thanks for signing up on our Patreon, Simon, and showing us some love. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy, Randu!
Hey!
What up, dude?
Hey! What's going on, man? I'm ready to talk about some butterfly kisses on a midnight mail. I'm so excited. This shit is my jam.
I like it.
As far as I'm concerned, this song doesn't have lyrics. It's just the sounds of a man gesticulating wildly in the direction of his daughter, presumably.
Which is not kosher. We don't endorse this. It's weird.
Yeah, we're going to have a nice long conversation about that in a second, but I'll let you get back to your hosterly duties.
It's what a lovely coincidence we're talking about this movie on Father's Day, and that song is just sort of a lyrical nightmare.
It's just a perfect situation for you, Bob, because as we all know,
I have a daddy kink. Yeah, I'm not on record of saying that. That's not really me.
That's not on record?
No, you made
this
that.
recording is not record?
No, you made that.
I have a daddy kink.
No, that's not me.
Deep State's at it again.
That's a sex
That's
bot.
what's happening.
Sex bot called in, did that shit. Wasn't me. Last but not least, calling in from my immediate left, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
What up, it's your boy. Walk beside the pony ditty. It's my first ride. Stain.
That's a hell of a stain, dog. That's some fucked up stain.
That's a stain that'll get you put in fucking prison.
Yeah, you're going to jail for that stain.
Diddy Stains is on the case.
Hope it was worth it, dog.
We're gonna get arrested.
Bob, we're going to get arrested.
We're going to get erected and then arrested.
It's really, they're both one and the same in this particular case.
This particular case, yes. How many references to that song are we going to make today, boys?
I fully intend to make this whole episode about that song and not talk about the movie at all.
Song now.
No, the bouquet looks fun.
For some reason, we was requested that we review a song this week.
So we all listened to it. Watch the music video.
And we have feelings.
We're reviewing the music video to Butterfly Kisses.
Yeah, it's weird. The way the dude sings that song is like way too personal. It's
Bob
like in a
Carlyle.
creepy way. I don't know, Bob Carlyle.
For those who don't know, this song is like it's like parent porn. Like it's what a parent wants. Like this will make every mother in the world cry within 30 seconds of pressing play.
This was played at like every wedding in the summer of 1995.
Yeah.
And then again in like 2009 when all those little girls became adults and had fond memories of shit that I don't need to know about.
Some fucked up
wild shit. It's a song about a dad just really laying it out there and can be taken in some horrible, horrible ways if you have terrible minds like ours.
Accurate. Anyways, let's go ahead and tackle some housekeeping real quick. Here is another reminder. We got our July poll pick currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this July. The theme for July is Hot Blood Summer, and the three movies to vote between are Independence Day, Jaws, and I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Bob, how are those numbers looking?
Looking real hot, real bloody. Jaws, Hot Blood Summer, dog.
That bothered you, huh?
I don't like
it's the little things that get to Justin.
Walk beside the pony,
hot
daddy.
Blood. It's a hot blood summer.
It's my first ride.
It's hot blood summer, Diddy. Let's ride the pony.
I want to hear a death metal cover of that.
Do we need to reach out to Meat Canyon and get him on this track?
I don't have the stomach for whatever that would produce.
Meat on the track.
There are limits.
We need to collab with Meat Canyon on this one.
So Jaws is still in first place. I know what you did last summer is coming up a little bit. Independence Day is way on back there. Make sure you get your votes in before the end of June. We'll see what we're talking about this July.
People don't want to talk about Independence Day on a horror movie podcast? I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's a shocking
No sense made.
Discovery that we've made
got that
here.
one like horror scene where the alien kicks some ass.
Dude, that shit fucked me up when I was a kid.
It didn't an alien get punched in the fucking face? Like, I don't know.
Well,
Welcome to Earth.
yeah, but still.
I am not entirely sure that qualifies
Dude.
it. But you know what? Randy Quaid's in it, so that's
true.
pretty horrific in its own.
Randu Quaid. In other Patreon news, we got a brand new Patreon supporter we got to give mad shouts outs to. Big thanks to Survivor's Guilt for signing up on Patreon and showing us some love. Your parents had a really
It's a good Christian name.
yeah, strange name to give you. How did they come up with that? I don't know. Regardless, thanks for the love on Patreon, and as is tradition around these parts, we owe you the straight chilling salute. This one goes out to Survivor's Guilt.
Slap my ass.
Slap my ass, Survivor.
Yeah.
One day somebody's going to sign up with a name that is going to be very incongruent with the slap my ass bump, and it's going to be very uncomfortable for everyone. I'm calling it now.
I can't wait for that day to happen.
I can't wait.
Bring it on.
Yeah. Well, if you sign up with a silly name, make sure that it sounds real weird next to someone saying smack my ass. That's my only request.
Murder my ass.
Ugh.
We got the only other bit of Patreon news, and this is a big one. We are reopening the You Pick the Flick tier for the third quarter of 2021. It's going to be opened on Sunday, June 27th at an undisclosed time of day. There's only going to be 5 spots. Just like every time we do it, there's only 5 spots per quarter. They tend to go very quickly. So you'll just have to check on our Patreon website throughout the day, and it'll open randomly, and grab a spot if you can. This is the only way you can pick a movie outright for us to review on the podcast. Again, that opens Sunday, June 27th at an undisclosed time. Yeah, we're just reviewing a song this time. So thanks, Simon. Thanks for that. Yeah. Juice, do you have any news?
My house is clean.
Squeaky clean.
Yeah, I think so.
Last thing I want to touch on is, again, one final big thanks to the squad that hung out this past Friday for our Joe Bob watch party. It was the season 3 finale. So we're done with Joe Bob for a little while. It was a solid season, 10 straight weeks. We had a decent crowd every single week. It was a lot of fun hanging out with you guys. Look forward to doing it again in the near future. All right. I think our houses are clean.
All right.
This house is clean.
And we're getting into the main event. We're talking about butterfly kisses, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
All right, so in lieu of the back of the box, obviously, you're going to be reading the lyrics to the song, correct?
Bob, do you have this box?
I don't have this box. This does exist on the DVD, I believe, so you can pick it up on physical.
I was
media.
wondering.
It's not worth your time.
Well, it was also conveniently on Tubi and on IMDb. You can watch it with commercials, so easy to find.
Let's get digital media.
On
huh,
Vudu
Bob?
as well, for
Never.
those who go that way.
Also on Vudu.
Let's get it.
Randu says Voodoo can do. Butterfly.
That's an amazing headline for something that doesn't make sense.
It makes perfect sense. Butterfly Kisses from 2018. This was written and directed by Eric Christopher Myers. Runtime is a tight hour and 31 minutes. Plot synopsis
Tightest.
is as follows. A filmmaker discovers a box of videotapes depicting 2 students' disturbing film project featuring a local horror legend, the Peeping Tom. Gentle Mangs, had you seen this movie before, and would you recommend people check it out? Randu, how do you do?
You know, my first experience with this was riding around in my mom's minivan, and about 15 seconds in, she just starts bawling, and I'm not able to understand. I'm too young to understand. So yes, I've experienced this song before, but in terms of any film adaptations thereof, no, I was not aware of their existence, and this is my first time watching it. As far as recommendations go, I'm honestly not sure. I kind of want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't know that like I would recommend against it necessarily. I'm not anywhere near that point, but it might be a difficult movie to recommend. I think that if you like found footage, if you're down for underground, lesser known films, and you're down to watch things that are, a little bit experimental, then you'd probably get something out of this. But otherwise, I'd have a hard time recommending to general audiences. I kind of want to just talk about it and get my teeth into it to know more about that feeling.
Gotcha. All right. Juice, what about you?
I was not aware of this film until Simon's voicemail that he dropped and was kind of mentioning it to us. And then I kind of looked it up at the time, and I had forgotten, even when I started watching this, I forgot it was 2018. And I was like surprised to then kind of like look into this movie a little bit and be like, oh shit, 2018. I would recommend this one. It's a very interesting movie. I think it's one that's definitely under the radar. Like, we didn't even know about it. It's recent, and it takes a couple different subgenres and in a way mixes them. It pays tribute. It's obviously a little bit of a love letter to found footage, but then it's also got this like documentary style element to it as well, and some other things. Folklore based. I don't know. There was a lot of interesting things going on. I do think it's a pretty underrated or I don't know, like just not well known. I would like for more people to know about it. So then I would recommend it because I think this probably does need a little more attention than it just has in general. So yeah.
I'll agree with that too. I think that's fair enough.
Yeah. I'm glad I could sway you, Randy.
Already swaying him.
You did. Way to sway, buddy.
I'll
Way to
sway stains tonight. Rob,
Yo.
have you seen this? Would you recommend?
This is a first time watch for me, just like you guys. I'd never heard of this before until Simon started dropping the name. He was able to grab a spot on our U-Pick, and we slammed our eyeballs into it. I'm glad that he chose this. I'm glad that he made us all aware of this, and hopefully some people listen to this show and even more people get to check it out, because I feel like I've never heard anybody mention this at all, and it's sort of crazy because it's a decent flick, man. It's sort of like when it comes to found footage as well as like zombie movies, like we're just so inundated with them that if you're going to make one, you got to really add some originality to it, something that like the rest don't have to make it kind of fresh. And this movie kind of does that. I don't think it fully does, but I think even if you are among the people that are like tired of found footage movies, I don't necessarily think you'll throw this on and be like, oh, fuck, another found footage movie. I've seen this a million times. It has sort of a fresh take, I think. So I would recommend it. Slam your eyeballs into it. It's easy to find, and spread the good word about butterfly kisses. With your daddy.
So it seems like a general recommend or whatever overall, right?
Yeah.
With your ditty at midnight.
I have a daddy kink. Ditty at midnight. Just really start talking about that to all your friends.
Or with your ditty stains tonight, pop on the old straight chillin'. Mm-hmm. Let ditty stains guide you through butterfly kisses. Let's get it.
Through your first ride. Yeah, let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning and get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
All right, boys. Time to fire me.
Why?
Oh,
I didn't do my job. I did not type up the full plot synopsis, but I'm gonna do it off the dome.
Plot synopsis.
Dome,
all right,
boys.
don't miss a beat.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna miss a beat or two. Sorry, Simon, if I fuck this up, but here goes nothing.
That's your starter's pistol. Go.
So yeah, we sort of there's this filmmaker, this documentary style filmmaker, and he finds a box of movies in his step parents or his parents in law's basement, I guess. They're just like underneath the boiler or some shit, and he watches them, and it's these two kids, and they're like film students, and they're making a documentary about some local folklore about this creature called the Peeping Tom. You gotta like stare down this train tunnel for a full hour at midnight without blinking, and that's how you conjure the quote Peeping Tom. And then every time you blink after that, he gets a little bit closer and a little bit closer and a little bit closer to where he's all the way up in your face, and then he gives you a little butterfly kiss, and then it alludes that you get murked. So
you can't blink, y'all. Can't do it.
Can't do it. So dude finds these movies, he's watching them, and decides that he wants to make a documentary about his journey in finding these tapes and trying to investigate and find out whether or not the Peeping Tom is real, because it turns out these kids died. He's trying to like get to the bottom of what happened to them, and he's like interviewing some of the townsfolk, and like, yeah, they're aware of this urban legend, and you know, he's getting their take on it, and he does kind of a deep dive. So you're sort of watching the footage that he literally found in a box throughout the course of the movie, while you're also watching him make a documentary about this whole process in real time.
So there's a lot of flashing back and forward in this movie.
Yeah, there's sort of a lot going on. You're following two different plots almost. And
then three, kind of.
Yeah, and then there's some question as to the legitimacy of the tapes that he found. Some people start claiming that he made the footage himself. He didn't actually find it. He's a hoaxster, and he's just trying to make his name and break into the movie making business with this documentary that he's sort of faking. And yeah, he sort of vanishes, and then his crew of people that he hired to make this documentary with him sort of take over this story about him. Yeah, they sort of take over the investigation because he goes AWOL, and we follow them for a little while. And it turns out it's true, and he like conjures the Peeping Tom, and he ends up getting murdered. I mean, that's
well.
Roughly.
They get some mail that includes a bunch of shit, and then including a room key to a motel, which they go to and find his dead body, and and a bunch of cameras set up. So basically the implication is that it turns out it was all real.
Yeah, it's all real, and he's dead, and that sucks.
And then the last thing is like the girl from the first movie is in an insane asylum with no eyelids because she cut him out.
Yeah,
to never
she's
blink
in
again.
an insane asylum. Insane asylum?
Yeah, that's like that might have been a post-credit thing, but it was on there.
Oh, really? I guess I did not see that either.
Yeah, there's like once the credits roll, there is a little short credit roll and then a little bit more footage after that.
Oh shit, I missed that.
I missed
God
that.
Damn it.
Oh, well, that's the DV. They get a DV tape in the mail with that room key card, and they show the DV tape, and it's from like security footage of that girl in an insane asylum looking at the camera, all creepy. With apparently no eyelids. It's tough to tell because it's like grainy as shit.
No
pixelated footage.
Okay.
No eyelids, and she does this thing like she's touching right in front of her face or something, implying loosely that
he's like right
somebody's
there.
staring her down.
Fucked up,
That
and
is
she
pretty
can't
fucked
close
up.
her eyes. That's so fucked up.
But she seems totally chill with it in an insane person kind of way.
Huh. Damn.
She's like,
Yeah,
I beat you, bitch.
Damn, I should have watched that.
What happens if you just close your eyes and like don't open them again? Like, are you good?
I mean, I don't know because that's another thing. I guess you could have sewed them shut. It would have probably been more comfortable.
Yeah.
Because like at one point she said something to the effect of her cutting her eyelids off is preempted by her saying like, the last person tried to beat the blink man by
cutting their eyes out,
staring at the sun until she was blind, but you still blink when you can't see. You can be blind and still blink. So I'm gonna cut them off, and she does it with like a piece of glass, and that's a very
I knew
horror
she
movie.
like did that to her eyes, but
What if
that last piece of footage?
What
That's
if-
pretty cool.
You just put on like your hater blockers. Like, does he know if you blink? If you got those on, like, is that?
You'll never
No,
know.
I mean, he'll disintegrate. I think I'm pretty sure that's how hater blockers work.
That's right. Blocking out the haters.
Yeah, so this movie does a lot of little turns and stuff, but we have to start with Gavin because he is by far the central focus of this movie, right?
Yeah, well, I also too really want to talk about
Go on.
the movies that I noticed that are embedded in this, and it's one thing that the reason I want to go ahead and mention it now because I'm going to make little references as we talk about kills or as we talk about like plot points. obviously the Blair Witch is a huge one.
Like
to
directly.
the point where the director's in this movie.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
like that
director
he's
plays a
calling
role.
bullshit, too.
Eduardo Sanchez. And,
He's like, this
Yeah.
found footage is bullshit. Nah.
he's like, yeah.
That was an interesting
If you look in the credits, he's listed as an advisor to this movie as well,
Yeah.
or something
Nice.
like a special counselor or something. So he was clearly like, the director and him of this movie, and he got together and sussed some things out together at some point, which is nice.
I would also say it's got elements of like I was reminded of The Ring for a couple different reasons. The videotape and like having something attached to a tape, and specifically that last scene of Gavin where he's found in the hotel room where they do those quick like flashes. It reminded me of that first kill in The Ring where they're talking about the girl and you get that quick flash of her like in the closet or whatever. That's I think
Spooky
that was
jaw girl.
Yeah, borrowed from that. But then you also have elements of things like maybe like the Mothman prophecies or like the fourth kind, things like that, where it's kind of documentary style, kind of found footage, but it's about this folklore thing. Like, are there aliens in this Alaskan town? Is there really a Mothman? Like those kind of things. So a couple scenes reminded me of that in the documentary style portion of the film. Those are the ones that like stood out to me. Was there anything else that like y'all thought like, man, this is really heavily influenced by this?
This movie in particular gave me a very strong, by the end of the movie in particular, I had very strong connection to The Last Exorcism. I don't know if you guys have seen that one. I think, Rob, you've definitely seen it.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spoil that movie. I might have to in order to properly talk about it, but I'll try to dodge it and I'll warn before any big spoiler. But suffice it to say that movie is also set up like documentary style. It's done more of like you're following this preacher around who's a huckster. He's actually leaving the faith and he wants to show how a fake exorcism is done. Okay. And so he takes you to this situation where this dad is called in, his daughter supposedly needs to be exorcised, and it gets out of hand. And that's sort of like the crux of that movie or whatever. But the question of whether or not it's real kind of runs throughout. And I'm not like, without spoiling the ending, I've heard it argued that there's two possible endings, right? And I'm not going to tell you which one it is. Either it's real or it's not. And that's what this movie outright states that about itself. Like either this is happening and it's a real blink man or it's not. And with that movie, I've heard it argued that, this is stronger. It's the stronger ending. I've heard it argued, and I don't know if I totally agree, but people say that if it's not real, and it turns out to be like really just a profile of people believing what they need to in order to get through a situation that is perfectly planetarily, sound, that's not supernatural.
See, now that's interesting, because where I thought this movie fucked up, just because you mentioned that, I was going to wait till much later to kind of mention this. I actually was really digging on this ride, but where I think they made a major fuck up, especially with hinging so much on these types of styles like found footage and documentary, is still posing that question, like, is it real? And even in this film where like we know it's not real, it's posing the question for this main character. And I actually thought it would have made it a lot stronger if the student tape was not real, but that guy believed it, because then you turn it into this character study, like you just said, of this main guy, Gavin, because we as an audience, at no point as an audience member did I think any of this was real. So I feel like that made it kind of weak. And I thought it would be super interesting if, since he's making a documentary about it for himself, if it just became this big character study that's draped in these tropes, but by the end the guy like is so fed up with maybe finding out that it's fake, but that he's lost everything because of it, that he he's fucking goes committed, buck wild, and like kills some people or something. But they didn't. They tried to keep selling that like it's real, and I was like, that's almost the weakest route you could have gone with that, in my opinion.
I totally agree. And that's why I brought that up, is not because whether or not it works for Last Exorcism or would work or whatever. in this movie's case, I kept thinking about that argument because I totally agree. This movie does a lot of legwork showing you that Gavin is not trustworthy. The only evidence he has are these tapes made by filmmakers, and he just keeps insisting they're real. He doesn't have anything else. He doesn't investigate any further, and he selectively interprets and shows the footage to people in order to elicit the response he wants. There's no science to this. This man desperately needs this to make sense to him, and for them to then at the end after doing almost no legwork to the supernatural side of things, then just lean into the supernatural real hard. It didn't seem earned to me. It seemed like the opposite of what this movie was going for, and it made it less interesting to me. Although there is some sort of saving grace with the idea, I do kind of like, if they go that route, the idea that the director that he hired has almost kind of taken up the mantle and become the person obsessed with this tale.
Yeah, like it keeps infecting.
I'll get into some more details about that. I know we don't have a lot of trivia, but I might bring up some trivia I found out on my own about this as we go. But I'll get to that later. But it ties into what I'm talking about.
There's
now.
like a little bit of trivia, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I think the most intriguing portion of this movie is like learning about Gavin, because he's like very hard up for money, and he he blows all of his cash that like is set aside from his wife's parents for his kid, like on this documentary. So he's like kind of a bad dad. He's not really like doing his fatherly duties and squandering what little money they have and shit. Like his kid needs shoes and he can't afford to buy him shoes and shit. So you're like not.
His wife is like. Sorry, go ahead.
No,
I keep interrupting you.
Sorry. You're like not really on his side, but that's like the most interesting thing about this. Like I love the bit of the folklore too, just because like I generally am interested in folklore, and then this movie like builds its own folklore, and that's pretty cool. But it the way it's built feels like kind of flimsy. Like you have to keep your eyes open for a full hour. That's insane. Nobody can do that. These kids are like amateur filmmakers. You're like not really trusting what they're doing because they don't know what they're doing either. They're like kids, but.
And they don't seem genuine, do they?
They don't really know. It's got this strange feel to it. And like even one of the kids is like potentially not being truthful to the Sophia
to each other.
Yeah, because like he needs to win some award or something, some like filmmaking award. So like there's even some distrust amongst them that we come to find out about.
Becomes untrustworthy.
Yeah.
Because she like has this reputation to kind of uphold. She's got a project due, and I think that's a problem. Like with the route that they went, is because the whole time they're just constantly sowing doubt. And again, like it plays off this idea of like when the Blair Witch Project came out, people thought it was real. And I like that because we talked about that when we talked about the Blair Witch. So that's interesting, especially if you're making a movie that's almost in a way like a love letter to those style films. So I appreciate that. I actually thought that was strong. And sowing this doubt and things like that, which makes it such a strange choice that they then went with it's real.
I totally agree, and that's the thing is like this movie does so much. Like this whole movie is a metatextual conversation about found footage and its efficacy and how people like will cut footage together, or like what if a person really found footage but was like corrupted by his own greed or need for attention or whatever. Like that's an interesting fucking story on its own. You could lean into that. And like, but to then like, if you're gonna sow all that doubt, you also need to sow doubt in the other direction as well, so that we're not shocked. The problem is that this movie does a great job of sowing doubt because it points out things that are like part and parcel to making films in the found footage space. Like, you can hide a lot with found footage because you're not supposed to be getting a good shot. So every bad shot makes sense. And that makes perfect sense. Like that's something that we know as savvy audience goers. And that's one thing that I really loved about this is they did not pull punches in terms of poking holes in this footage, but that's all they did. They didn't amp it up. The only thing that ever like was supposed to convince us that it was real initially throughout the most of the movie is them saying like, I can't believe nobody believes this. And it's all like, first it's the two filmmakers from 2004. Yeah. And then it's Gavin.
But it just doesn't. I was going to say that's one of my favorite parts because I liked it. That actually felt authentic. in the way of like, this man is so I liked it for the character study. This man is so desperate, and he's already.
No, I liked it if they had stuck the landing.
Yeah, and I just like watch it all in Riley, because it's like, if you just. He's such a like frumpy kind of guy. It's easy to see why like nobody takes him seriously. So I thought they sold that well. Like, even when he first comes on the screen, I was like, this isn't even a great actor. And that just helps build that character as somebody like you doubt, and you understand why these people are just thinking he's a joke, thinking he's a fraud, and it just drives him further and further down. And I thought that was brilliant. I was like,
I think that works, but it only works if it's not real.
Yeah, and that is the problem. But I still like that journey, though, because I was like, man, you kind of feel bad for the guy, but then you're also on the end of being like, yeah, this guy needs to just admit that it's fake. He is involved in this. He's trying to sell the movie. It's like when you catch somebody in a lie, like, I didn't fart or something. You're like, motherfucker, you farted. Like, it's no big deal. Like, if you turned it into a joke, like, you'd be a lot more positive. It's kind of got that feeling where he just like doubles down and triples down, and he's already been beaten. So you're like,
he's just aggressive. He's an aggressively unlikable protagonist too. Like, that's the other thing. It's like they do no favors for his case by making him unlikable, and that's what makes him, like you said, it's interesting up until the point where they subvert that, and then it becomes like, oh well. I guess Gavin the moron is vindicated now,
and that
doesn't work.
Was a disappointment because so many like that element, which carried us, 75% of the way through the film, I was really enjoying. I also really enjoyed the student portion footage. I don't know. I thought that looked and felt great, and they even kind of kicked the movie off with that. And when I thought that the movie was going to essentially be like a Blair Witch kind of love letter, I was about it, because what they were showing me looked pretty good. And I was like, man, I thought they captured this student film essence pretty good. I like those portions.
I would say, here's the thing, is like found footage for this movie is talking directly about found footage as a genre, and it's doing it in a documentary / found footage style. So it's steeped in this shit. But then you get things like the problem, or one of the issues with found footage in general, is that every time a found footage movie is successful, it kind of makes it harder to make a successful found footage movie, because audiences get more savvy. We're not. Everybody is tired of the question of why is this person filming, and they talk about that directly in this movie. It's really fucking interesting to see a movie do that, and I think it would have stuck the landing better if they had, held that as true. You know what I mean? They did all this work to make it. I don't want to harp on the ending much more, but like, it was so interesting to see them be like, talk about that directly, to sow doubt in this thing. And that led us by the nose to thinking Gavin is just a fool who is doubling down and selling out his kid's future in order to maybe make it big with what he sees as a winning lotto ticket he found at his step parents' house, or whatever, his parent-in-law's house. I think that's the interesting story here. But then, like, to have it kind of like subvert itself at the end, it just kind of did it no favors is the problem. And I keep going back. I can't stop.
I had kind of a question when I was watching this. Like, as the movie unfolds, we are treated to more and more of the footage that Gavin found. And he goes to like this group of like paranormal investigators, or like he invites them all to watch some of his footage. And he shows them
the most Baltimore crowd I've ever seen in my life.
he shows them some of the footage, but it's the scene where like the Peeping Tom pops up at the end of the tunnel, but he has to like zoom in really hard to like show it, and it's like you can't really see anything. It's not very convincing. So they're very skeptical. They think he's a shyster and he made it himself. They don't believe him. But he has like so much more convincing footage than that he just doesn't really show them. And I wonder why.
But he wants to hold it back.
Yeah, like the freaking girl cutting her eyelids off, or the kid getting murdered with the Peeping Tom jumps up in front of the camera. Like, there's just so much more convincing stuff that he finds like a news story about that teenage kid's death. He could have like showed them that. Like, this kid really died. Here's the proof. Here's the news story.
Well, that's something I was confused about too, because at the beginning of the movie, he says he can't find these people. He can't find the university. He can't find the
professor.
Things of their death. Yeah, the professor, like the kids' names, their deaths, and so. But then there is footage about this kid's death, and this girl does exist, and it really doesn't give an explanation for why this professor wouldn't be able to be found.
Right, and exactly, and the only person they're able to find is the weird Maryland author or whatever.
Yeah.
And Gavin is like unbearably aggressive in that interview.
He really
as a
is.
character.
So
It's a totally pointless interview. Needless to say, Gavin has no journalistic integrity with this. He just needs it to be true. And like I said, that's the interesting thing about it. But jumping back real quick to the performances of the kids in 2004, I didn't think that their performances were convincing. I didn't think that the effects were very convincing.
Yeah.
And I think up until the twist or the reveal, that worked to this movie's benefit, because that showed to me, like, if this is all fake, this is Gavin losing his mind over something fake, because he cannot see the alternative. He won't see the alternative. But then once you reveal that it's real, all their wooden performance, wooden line readings and things like that, and really dumb effects that they literally pointed out how they're done and how dumb they are. Like all of a sudden, all those things they even said at one point, it's easy to hide things, like, these are easy tricks you can do to make things look real that aren't. You can do it easy digital trickery. If that's what they're doing, then that works to this movie's benefit. But if it's not, and this is a real thing, that the ghost is just pretending to be stuff in the film like a filmmaker would do, like, that doesn't work as well. And that, I don't know. I keep going back to that. I don't want to down on that so much, but it's just so pervasive. It's such a big problem.
I do agree with what you guys are saying. Basically, if they would have had Gavin go nuts and, like you said, Rennie, like kill, like the switch flips in his brain and he starts killing people himself. Like, what if he ended up murdering his documentary film crew and then framing it to make it look like Peeping Tom killed him to bolster
that's what I thought was going
and make it seem real.
I totally thought that's where that was going.
I thought it would be funny, or again, because it's the irony, and again, it's this character study of that he starts killing people, and the people who make it big are the documentary crew who are literally just
that would have been funny.
Get everything that he wanted, because that's almost what you're doing in this movie. You're like, stop lying, Gavin. If you just had just a smidge of social personality or just intuition, that if you didn't fight it so hard to make people believe this real, if you just sold it as a movie, then you would be fine.
Eduardo says that exactly to him.
Just sell it as a movie.
And Eduardo Sanchez is famous for purporting something to be real that he then revealed is not. Like, he broke all that down. It was really interesting to see that happen.
I did
as part of the text of the movie. I love that. But also, here's where I got to reveal sort of like the extended universe of this thing that I found.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
So at the end of this movie, you have the filmmakers arguing, the director and his crew arguing about whether or not they pushed Gavin to this point, because they did stage that interview with Eduardo Sanchez, specifically to have Eduardo Sanchez shit down Gavin's throat and fuck him up.
Call his ass out,
So he was
call him out and make him look like a fool.
So they
give an ending to their movie.
So you're talking in context of the movie, not that.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Yes. No, yes.
Gotcha.
No, as far as I know, that did not happen in real life.
Gotcha.
But so what's interesting about that, first of all, is so not only are, at least the way I was thinking at the time, not only are these two kids faking something, but then Gavin was faking something. And now on top, in order to get an ending, the documentary filmmaker of this movie is now faking something, or involving himself in the story to a point where he corrupts the story. And I think it's like, oh man, this is such a cool cyclical thing. Then when it becomes real, it becomes a totally different thing. But I was like, man, this is interesting. I bet you they really put out this Butterfly Kisses website with a countdown and all this stuff to promote the movie as real or whatever. And in the opening, or right at the beginning of the credits, it says something like, it keeps pressing on the gas pedal of this being real. Like, Gavin's, I forget what it says exactly, but it leaves it as like, this really happened. We never found this. And then it showed a video of this girl. I went on YouTube and I looked up the name of this director, the actual director of this movie, and the name Gavin York. Eric, I can't remember the guy's last name. Eric something is the director of this movie. And he appears, there's 2 videos of him appearing on what appears to be like a public access show with an author of some kind, and then the parents of Gavin's wife. And I didn't watch all of it. I watched the second half. There's 2 videos, and it's like one half, the other half. But basically, they are all accusing Eric of staging a bunch of stuff. And you know how we don't see Gavin's face in this last shot? Yeah. They're accusing him of staging that and potentially killing Gavin as a way of ending his movie the way that he ended the movie. And it's so fucking weird, and I don't know what to make heads or tails of it, because at the end of it, it's very it feels very much like, my God, are they going to do this thing where at the end of this movie, they said in 10 years, we'll see these found footage tapes. So are they going to make a sequel in 10 years and thinking the long con on this? That would be so fucking interesting, because they can insert this footage of Eric going insane, and he's now the lead character losing his mind over this fucking same story.
That would be awesome.
That's like a one.
That would be amazing
type situation.
Right. Yeah. I would love that. But then at the end of those videos, they say something like, this interview is fiction about a fiction about a fiction. And all were similarity to any people living or dead are not true, with the exception of Eric. Fuck that guy. April Fools. So I don't know what to make of it. Maybe it's just something for the cast and crew.
April Fools.
I don't know, but they put a lot of lore out there that really did kind of make a kind of sense and made an intriguing continuation. So I kind of want them to make another movie in 10 years.
Well, that's something I'm going to talk a little bit
7 years
in trivia about like the folklore and stuff like that. But that is very interesting. And that's why I got frustrated with the ending, because to me, this was crafted with a lot of care, in a certain sense of like appreciating the subgenre of and that's why I said I was digging on the found footage portion, not because I believed it or because the actors were doing a good job, but because it felt authentic and it felt fun too. I liked them interviewing kids on the street about Peeping Tom and getting this lore, and I found it all very fun, and not in like, I'm believing this, I think this is something that exists, but in they're doing a really good job with this kind of way. In a similar way, Blair Witch kind of does it after. It's almost like watching Blair Witch, knowing, of course, 15 years removed from its initial release and knowing the impact and stuff it had. It's like watching this, knowing, how much some people love found footage movies and like which ones are the most popular, and seeing how somebody's like kind of, writing a love letter to that. And that's what I was enjoying about it. And I do think that that's still fun and good. And I enjoyed that ride up until it became essential for them to sell the idea that it was actually real, which did leave the bitter taste. But I don't want to like keep harping on that. It's hard to, because that's where everything leads. But the ride itself, I was really enjoying. And even though the movie didn't end the way I wanted it to, or the way I think is the most interesting, like, it almost ended in almost, in my opinion, the worst way it could with where these things were going. And yet still, I think it's a pretty fun movie overall. It's just, the problem is you have a harder time putting it in a kind of compartment when you do that, because it does split itself up, and you think these splits like have a purpose, and then when they ultimately kind of don't, then it's like, well, what really is this movie? And why did they make it this way? And becomes confusing. But I still had a fun time. I was intrigued. I like the journey. I like the folklore that's infused in it. I like a lot of the styles that they use. So I don't want to just keep harping like, yeah, they made the ending bad. Yeah, they took this wrong direction, because they did. But even still, when it was done, I was like, that was fun. That was a fun a fun ride.
I love thinking about this movie. That's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
like I think that, like, honestly, it's that extended universe little thing. I hope that that's a thing, and I hope that they go on to say, because part of that discussion completely validates the movie again to me, because what it's saying is that what we're not only, like, Eric is now not only in total question about what is being presented as a character in his own movie. And so we can have a story about that. He's not only did they say that he was involved with the death of Gavin, they were implying that, but to get there, they also said, well, we saw you had a test cut of this that we got our hands on, and you reshot some of these things. You didn't actually have cops at the door of that motel, did you? You didn't. Those were not real cops. Was that really Gavin, or was that your friend? And he's like being real cagey and real weird about it and everything. It was, to me, if you then follow this movie up by saying, yes, your instincts were right, all of this was bullshit, and it was one after the other psychotic filmmaker cascading onto each other to form this lineage of people desperate to get that next big hit and desperate to get that money. I would love that, because that is like playing the game that I thought they were playing on a much higher level that I got suddenly disappointed by the what was the ending of this movie. The problem is I have to judge this movie on its own. So I don't know that I can really include that until it becomes canonically part of the story. So for me, for all I know, it's just an April Fool's joke for the cast and crew. It was uploaded like 2019 or 2020. So not, like, pretty far removed from the story that we saw. So I don't know if it's like a playing along game or if it's something else, but so I just can't count it as part of my thing. And my experience with this movie was interest, like kind of elation at the idea of, oh man, they're really pointing out these things about found footage, about how difficult, like every trick, so that it makes it even more difficult to trick people. But because of the context of this movie, the fact that these tricks don't work so well actually enhances the movie. Like, I loved all that, and then it just kind of fell apart right at the end. So I got to count that. Like, you can't... to me, it's like really bad case of not sticking the landing in a way that's satisfying, at least within the context of the 90 minutes given. So
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm kind of rating it at this point.
I want to talk about the folklore a little bit. I love when movies create folklore for the movie itself. Like Candyman does that. This movie specifically reminded me a bit of the Babadook. Just like the design of the Peeping Tom character. You know, he's got the coat. And he's sort of like a black silhouetted figure with like a man. I kind of wish that they had gone more of the Babadook route, where like you see the Babadook, but you don't really see the Babadook. Like they do sort of... They have a scene with like a classic jump scare that like did make me jump, but it like kind of just full blown shows Peeping Tom's face, and it's like sort of distorted. But I feel like they just give you a little bit too much. Whereas like the Babadook does that well. That's also largely why the Blair Witch Project was so successful. It's like the actors sell it for sure, but they also don't show you the witch. They don't really show you a lot. They show you like stick figures hanging from trees and stuff, and you're like, wow, that's weird. How did that get there? I kind of wish they would have kept played it closer to the vest, I guess.
And the thing is, like, yeah, the only part where that really bothered me, I agree with you generally, but I think the real culprit is that scene on the football field where he just had a dude on that looked like extra cheap, even for faking it. Like, even if you're putting it in context of this is fake, I was like, man, it's tough to even look at this because it's too on the nose.
Yeah, it was too
anyway.
Like, I like the idea that this kid wasn't really scared and he was about figuring it out. And he's like, oh, well, just put it on the football field. There's nothing to hide behind. I like, oh, that's clever. And again, it's so hard when they were explaining, like, why is he just getting in front of the camera every time for to make this effect work as if this were faked. I liked that because it was like, yeah, this is fake, and that is why you would do it. And it looked kind of interesting enough in a fake way. And that's the thing, is like when you're selling the fakeness of it, then it's clever and quaint, and it's like aesthetically fun. But it adds to the realism, which is
what found footage is built on, the bedrock of realism.
And that actually, good call on the Babadook, but that was another one when I was watching, I was like, man, this is another influence. And I think that's maybe, it was fun to watch this movie because of those things, like, oh, the Babadook, or like, oh, the Blair Witch, or oh, all these things, but also hurts this movie too because they didn't take any kind of new route. It ultimately feels like there's nothing particularly new about this movie. It just feels like it's really just a lot of borrowing from other things, like this Frankenstein, but it's
meta.
It doesn't really do anything new because it didn't go the interesting route, because it didn't try to go anywhere else. It really was just like, I like this movie, I like this movie, I like this movie, and I'm going to kind of tie all these things together in this one piece. And so then you're left with like, okay, like, it's just, and then it just becomes like, okay.
I think it does a little bit of something fresh in that the movie that we actually are presented is a documentary about finding footage, like literally finding footage. So it's like kind of a slight spin on it, but it's not like a mind blowing, like, whoa, how did they ever come up with this? But I like that freshness where you're like following this documentarian through his journey and investigating. Whether or not you like the ending is up for debate for sure, but that felt fresh to me, at least. I can't recall necessarily seeing that before.
I think everything but the ending felt fresh enough to me. Well, actually, and the folklore, because to me, like, I like it when people bring their own folklore to the table too. But it was so underbaked as opposed to the other parts of this movie that I wasn't super into it. Like, generally, I'm not interested in the Blink Man as a character. I'm not, like, they don't even give like at least the fucking Blair Witch had like some sort of lore, like you heard stories beside like origin stories, you know what I mean? There's no origin story for Blink Man. He's just a dude who shows up in the cavern, like, or in the train tracks. It just felt too underbaked for trying to sell it as scary beyond a jump scare. What was actually scary was the idea that somebody would sell his whole family's future down the river in pursuit of something that he is consistently being told is something that's meant to trick him. Yeah. And, the generous interpretation up until the ending is that Gavin is being tricked by his own ambition, his own greed, and his lack of, he everything else is taking second win to that second spot, including his own fucking son and wife. So that's the more interesting story. And I just wish that story had ended a different way than, oh, but the Blink Man got him because he was so desperate. He actually said Bloody Mary 5 times or whatever. Yeah. Like, that's not that strong. It just kind of undercuts the real tension of the movie to me.
Yeah.
I also didn't get, the problem is they set things up, which is okay if it's fake, but when it's real, it's like, how did the Blink Man ultimately get him? What's his name? Josh or Gavin? No. The kid. Because he made this whole plan.
It was.
It seemed pretty foolproof. And then also then
Feldman.
Yeah, Feldman. That's
Feldman,
right.
Yeah.
So he had like this whole plan that seemed pretty foolproof, and yet for whatever reason it just didn't work, or something that wasn't clear to me. But then also, if the girl is still alive, okay, so if the footage shows that the girl is still alive, then why would it get Gavin? And why would it take so long to get Gavin? Because they say from when he found these tapes and put all this shit together and everything, it actually, like, he took time and actually did it. But if you're following the timeline of, like, when Feldman, dealt with the Blink Man, and it was actually the camera, it wasn't Feldman, and then it passes on to Gavin, but for some reason it doesn't pass on to the girl. Like, it's just so full of holes at that point.
Well, no, I think that to explain that, I think that can be explained, because I don't think that the girl uses that camera. It's constantly being pointed out that she's using the handy cam instead.
Yeah, but she's
so I think
still
the idea is
watching
that
the footage
Feldman
with Feldman, which is what Gavin
right, but
does.
Feldman actually was the one looking at the camera while the thing was arriving. I think that's what triggers it for him, and I think that's what triggers it for Gavin, at least within the lore that they're presenting, because both of them actually stare down the fucking thing with their cameras.
But not
they're the ones actually there doing.
By time Gavin,
Yeah, Gavin does.
Yeah, I think he
no,
does.
hang on. By time Gavin actually takes the camera to the train tracks, right? By the time he actually does that, he's already feeling the butterfly kisses on his face. Because remember, he's already like scratching out of his face. They like go up to him and they're like, "Gavin, what are you doing?" And he like won't speak to him. He's like acting real crazy. He's like scratching at his face, and then that's when he like disappears into the night. So he was like drawing in earlier footage. Somebody was like focusing on his hand, and he was like drawing the symbol just like Feldman has. Like he was already infected.
Maybe.
And so I
maybe
was like, well,
I mean
why
those could be
is
taken
this
as infection signs.
transferred onto him?
So maybe maybe you're onto something. To me, I think you could explain those away, but it's not wrong to say that those are misleading moments. So yeah, I guess that's true. I think that like
He could have just been crazy.
ga-
Like he could have gone crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing is like he could have been like he like that's the thing, he was under an immense amount of stress. He could have been going crazy enough to then go do a thing which he believes will kill him, and then it does, because guess what, it's true. If that's the ending they're going with, then that could have been the sequence of events. He was going crazy, but then he instead just did the thing that'll kill you. He just killed himself essentially in order to prove himself right. Yeah, I don't know. But it's it's a fucking fascinating thing to have a found footage movie or a documentary style found footage movie talk directly about the art of making a found footage convincing, because the whole thing about found footage is that it's about immersion. I like found footage because it's instantly a nice way of me feeling immersed, even if the plot isn't as good, even if X, Y, and Z isn't as good. I'm into it because I can really sink my teeth into the suspension of disbelief. But with every movie you see, you get more savvy, and it gets harder and harder to get that illusion to work for you. I've noted, like, certainly with the gamut that we've seen over the last several years, not always done very tastefully or artfully. So this movie, like, taking that head on and trying to do something different is very admirable. I just kind of think that the ending is the biggest blunder for me of this movie. And if it wasn't for that ending, I really think this would be a very fucking special movie overall.
Yeah, I even like how, to your point here, this movie starts off with like Gavin commenting about how to craft a successful horror movie. When he finds the box in the basement, it says "Don't watch" on it. He's like, "Oh, isn't that super creepy?" And that's just how every good horror movie is supposed to start, right? So you're like already set up to believe like, oh, he's totally like framing this whole situation. He didn't really find
everything
the box,
about
he
this man
planted it.
screams huckster.
Yeah. So it really starts framing the situation for you to think a certain way, and I guess the filmmakers were like, well, we're going to frame it that way, and then when the end comes around, we'll pull the rug, and the audience will be very shocked to find out it is indeed all real. But it's not
and that's the thing.
effective. I think largely to me,
because
it's not
they
super
don't even
effective.
entertain the option.
Yeah, that's true. The effects are obviously pretty low budget, and I think that makes it more difficult to believe, because you see the Blink Man so much. So like when the end rolls
Which
around,
is why
you're
it
like,
was,
I don't know, man.
That's why it was so brilliant that they wrote that into the story by saying like, yeah, they're fake. That's part of the story that they're fake.
Yeah.
That's why they look bad, because it's part of the story for them to look bad. But then that's all kind of retconned at the end. I totally agree. I don't know, man. To me, that again goes back to Last Exorcism. Whether, again, I'm not going to say what happens at the end, but they show you multiple avenues of belief. Like there are different ways you can interpret the events as before you get to the ending, and it leaves you in doubt up until that point. There's no doubt left by the time we get to the reveal of this movie. Like literally right up until they find him in the motel room. There's no question to me that this is a movie about a guy going insane, trying and selling his family's future, and the stress of that all getting to him, his unfulfilled nature of his career, whatever, all that stuff, that all sinks him. You know what I mean? And that's the interesting story. But right at that moment, it's like, oh, they're playing this straight. And then they have go the full game all the way down the line and have the eyelidless girl in a fucking insane asylum. It's just, it's just not. It undercuts the movie itself to me, and it undercuts it makes all those blemishes that were working in its favor work against it again, and it just alternates, spins the whole thing in a negative direction. I can't keep harping on this. I can't.
We got to land the plane. Is there anything left you guys want to touch on before we rate Butterfly Kisses? No? All right. We're doing it.
It's a deeply Baltimore movie.
We're doing it. Out of 5. Juice, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel about Butterfly Kisses on your daddy's face or whatever?
Oh, my Lord.
Right on his face.
Don't do that. So I want to say thanks to Simon for having us check this out, because it obviously wasn't on.
Looking at fucking Bob Carlisle on my phone.
Oh, I'm behind the scenes.
Look at this fucking dude. Look at that. I want to butterfly kiss that guy. All right, sorry, continue.
I want to say thanks to Simon for making us, or for picking this movie for us to watch.
Making us.
But because it wasn't on any of ours radar, and I really did. I was trying to be careful because I didn't want to just keep harping on this movie, because I feel like if you just listen to the past hour, it probably sounds like we don't actually like this movie too much. I actually really enjoyed watching this movie. I don't particularly want to watch it again because I know kind of actually, maybe I'd be okay to watch it like one more time and from that new lens be like, okay, they're selling this as ultimately it's real. That might be intriguing. But when I was in it, I really enjoyed the ride. And like Randy said, I've enjoyed thinking about it since I watched it. So I want to kind of set that out there, that I know we kind of pick it apart and that's what we do, but I really did enjoy watching it, and I'm glad that we were made aware of it, because I do think it's got some solid, strong points. Again, I'll kind of go over those. I don't know if I have a lot of things new, but I like the folklore. I liked everything pretty much about the student film, except that at the end they try to sell that it was real. But like when didn't know that and I was experiencing it, I liked it. I thought that they crafted this character of Gavin so well. Like, as this poor, kind of pathetic man who you can't trust and who is like selling his family out. But
you're really kind of circling something there.
Well, no.
Really circling something there.
Well, no, that you just... They crafted that character so, because like even Bob said from the very beginning, you're like, I don't trust this man. I don't. So it makes perfect sense why nobody else would, but you also, since you get this documentary style, which is another brilliant move, you get to see why his life's so bad, or like why you should actually feel a little bad for him. But you also see that he kind of brings it on himself. So I just thought that was crafted really well, that character, because I never liked him, but then I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to, for what they're mostly selling for this movie. So in that way, I think that they crafted him, even like his clothes, his crazy checkered hat that he wears. It's like they have crafted this character so well. I just thought they did a great job with that. Let's see, what else did I like about it? I liked just kind of the general folklore, because it does have one of those things where it's like, who could keep their eyes open for an hour? But then I like the little like science things behind it. Well, we'll use a camera, and then we'll set it up on the field. I like discovering these things with these kids. It was just, I was like, that's a cool movie. I like this movie. And almost in a way, I wish that just was kind of its own movie in a way. Even if it was a short film, like a 45-minute film, I think that would be really cool. The negatives, obviously, the ending fell flat for me. They just don't justify any way that this could be real, or why that you should take that route that it's real. I think that's just a strange choice that they made. I don't know. I like the little scenes again, like of the little guy popping up, like him just coming out, and they even tied it to some real like German folklore. Like we call these types of ghosts or types of specters like this thing or whatever. And that was cool too. Like, I just liked all those little bits, and even meeting with like the Bigfoot guy. Like, I thought that shit was like really funny. Like the expert. It's like calling Frangione or whatever. Franzoni, like calling him up.
Oh, you talking about the weird Maryland guy?
Well, there was two guys.
Or
there was one
someone
foot,
else?
and it literally was like Bigfoot specialist, and he was the guy who was in the like
I
Zoom
missed
call,
that.
and he was like, you're paying me for my opinion, and my opinion is that this is fake or whatever. He kind of freaks out.
I didn't catch that he was a Bigfoot guy.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
So I was like, oh my God. I don't know. I just liked all those little elements about it. And then there was this kind of mystery, like, oh, these kids have disappeared. And I don't know. I liked a lot of the pieces. Ultimately, just in the end, they couldn't quite rein it in. And if they did, this would have been like big surprise, but still I liked it. I do think it still deserves more attention than it gets. I like to see all the little pieces of other horror films that I liked and I got to see that they liked. The director from like Blair Witch Man, I thought that shit was funny as fuck. Like it really almost had this little element of One Cut of the Dead, which I think is a brilliant fucking film, and I think that this movie was on that path and it could have achieved something very similar, but it just didn't, which is unfortunate, a bummer, for the potential. But for what we actually have, I think it's still pretty solid and it was fun. I like thinking about it. I've enjoyed talking about it. So I think ultimately I'm gonna give this one a 3 out of 5.
3 out of 5 from Juice.
Bob?
Yo.
Oh, I think this title's terrible. They should have named it Peeping Tom.
You know,
like they should have named
like,
it something
butterfly
else.
kisses
Not butterfly kisses.
at the midnight prayer.
Like, I just
no.
regardless of the song, like, I know we don't think of the song,
Hell yeah.
but I just think that it was a poor choice. The Peeping Tom or
Well, yeah, the connection to the butterfly kisses as an idea was not that strong.
It
me to
was
begin
true.
with.
It wasn't. So poor choice again. Bob.
Yo.
Butterfly kisses out of 5. What you got?
Similar to you, man. When I was watching this, when I was sitting down, I was like in it, along for the ride, like stoked to find out more about this like Peeping Tom folklore. Stoked to find out about what happened to these high school kids. Did they actually die? And I was stoked to find out about whether or not Gavin was just lying to us all, which he definitely seemed to be doing. You mentioned that Gavin, the actor they hired to play Gavin anyway, was like not a very strong actor. I think he was acting that way because he was supposed to. Like, he wasn't supposed to be coming across like very, very convincing, and I think he nailed that, really. Like, I enjoyed watching him on screen. Like, I didn't enjoy his character, like, as a person. He was a shitty person, but I enjoyed watching him on screen because you're just like, this guy's like he's like a used car salesman. You just like don't really believe him, and you're like, there's something off here, and I don't know exactly what it is.
He is kind of William H. Macy in Fargo, isn't he?
Kind of, yeah. He's got that vibe, but like, I think that actor like really nails it, and I enjoyed when he was on screen. I enjoyed watching him work. The kids didn't feel like super solid to me, but also the footage was like sort of, it was black and white, grainy, and it was you know, they're supposed to be like high school age kids, maybe early college age. So
they're college,
college kids. So I don't know. I guess
definitely college.
I guess they did a decent enough job. I'm just a sucker for like folklore in movies. I love that shit. So like, tell me to stare down a tunnel for an hour and this dude's gonna pop up and come murder me. Like, I'm all about that shit. I also I thought the freshness of like taking the documentary and the found footage and like slamming them together was really, really cool. I enjoyed watching that because you got like 2 stories unfolding at the same time, and I like how they bounce back and forth between them. It keeps the plot very fresh and interesting. I love the like random cameos, like the dude who wrote all those like weird insert state name here books, like just happen to be on there, like for no real reason. Like, his character doesn't even really add that much, but it's like, hey, it's that fucking guy. I remember those books. It's just like kind of neat to see. And of course, Eduardo Sanchez popping up, and like just completely shitting all over the found footage stuff was just hilarious. For him to call bullshit, it's just very funny. It's very comedic, very self-aware. I also enjoyed the scene where he goes to talk to that radio host and he's like interviewing him and he's like trying not to have like a bias, but eventually people start calling in and they're calling bullshit that it's fake, and then he just lays into them anyways. Like I don't know, I enjoyed all of that. The ending probably wasn't as strong as it could have been, like we've discussed, but still totally a decent ending, which makes this movie still a very enjoyable ride, and I think more people should be aware of it and should definitely watch it. It's really easy for me to just start rolling my eyes when I'm watching a found footage movie, and I just really wasn't doing that here at all. I think it's a solid effort for sure, and I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5, similar to Juice. Randy, how you feel out of 5?
Yeah, I have so many thoughts about this movie, and that to me is a good sign for sure. Like we talked about, this is a movie that I really want to keep talking about right now. There's so many things I could pinpoint, and so many new things that I'm coming across as I'm sitting here listening to you guys talk. I think that this movie is, I think it's really fucking fascinating. And I think that the ending aside, it raises a lot of interesting questions about the genre, and to me, it really it does kind of give a new approach, even if I don't think it sticks the landing with that approach. I kind of feel like this movie was written with the concept being, what if there was a sequel to Blair Witch where they interspersed this found footage with a documentary filmmaker who then went insane trying to like solve this issue, and then then the Blair Witch gets him, and that was maybe the starting point of this thing. And I can understand that. I don't think it sold that particular story necessarily, but I think it's really fascinating to look like the story beats of the kids, the college kids, is pretty not that far off from the Blair Witch itself, and intentionally so. Like right down to the style, like they did the interviews, like the beats of that story are not that different. And to have then instead of having Book of Shadows or whatever they tried to do, if they had made, or even Blair Witch with Adam Wingard or whatever, if they had done this sort of thing with it, where Eduardo Sanchez is putting together this film based on the found footage that he supposedly found or whatever, and then he like writes himself into the story as a character. I don't know. I just think that's interesting too.
Like
I just
Human
wanted to bring that up.
Centipede 2.
Oh man,
did they do that?
Yeah, Human Centipede 2 is a guy being inspired by the film Human Centipede. Like he's watching the film in the movie. That's what Randy likes.
Randy loves Human Centipede 2. You heard it here.
It's just what I'm about.
I'm about butterfly kisses.
I didn't think that the folklore was well baked. I don't think that the folklore was well baked, but I do think for the purposes of this movie, it worked fine up until the ending, and like that's really the crux of everything. I think this movie, if you have a sequel to this movie in 10 years or whatever, then they can totally save this whole thing for me. But to me, this is definitely a labor of love. This is definitely this is written by somebody who loves found footage, who sought out like one of the progenitors of found footage and really built it out, and turned it into the thing it is now, and involved him directly and indirectly with his film. And then on top of that, like I also loved all of the little bits where they were poking holes in things and saying, yeah, it's easy to hide this because it's a digital camera, and all this other thing. I don't know. I loved all of that stuff. I kind of want to know. I want this movie. I want there to be a sequel to this movie. Is kind of the thing. And I want those feelings of. I love this as a character study of Gavin. I even sort of started to be sympathetic towards Gavin when he's getting shat on by Eduardo Sanchez, because it seemed to me at that moment that he was like the weight of all of these fucking lies or all of these delusions were finally crashing down on him somewhat. And I thought that was fucking interesting. But, I just feel like the ending is the problem here. And if I could alter it, I would. But given the movie that we've gotten, I'm going to give it a 3.25. I feel like my interest in this movie growing, and I'm going to probably maybe watch it again and then look at some more of this like extra stuff, maybe more interviews with Eric Myers, the director, and just kind of see what his take was on it. I agree that this could have been One Cut of the Dead for found footage as opposed to for zombies, but they just didn't stick the landing. So with that, I'm going to go 3.25.
Nice. It Follows was another one I thought was kind of an inspiration for this one. Also, Bob's line, the reason that was cracking me up, of butterfly
what's
kisses
going on there?
on my daddy's face.
My daddy's face.
Is that would be the man singing about doing it to his own which is really disturbing.
Oh, interesting. European style.
Well, you never butterfly kiss your daddy,
And I
juice?
just couldn't stop thinking.
It's Father's Day, Soju.
It's
Come on, give your daddy a butterfly kiss. Come
cracking
on.
me up.
You never
Oh,
stood
man.
beside the pony while your daddy took his first ride, juice?
Oh my god, that shit was cracking me up behind the scenes. I couldn't stop.
Ride me on a pony, daddy. It's my first ride. Daddy, don't cry. Oh, if I done wrong, I must have done something right.
God damn. I must have done it.
Love in the morning. Butterfly kisses at night.
With the scat man.
Butterfly kisses on my daddy's face.
On my daddy's face.
Randy's got that 3.25. That's going to put our aggregate at a 3.1 for Butterfly Kisses. And we're going to jump right into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users think about Butterfly Kisses. Here we go.
Certified.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is
nothing wrong with that.
Parent porn. This is porn for
parental
parents.
pornography. This is porn for good parents who want to be good parents.
On Diddy's Day.
That fucking pony line
On
really
Diddy's
freaks me
Day.
out. I'll be honest.
Dude, okay, this song, if you listen to the whole song and just imagine what Becky would say about it,
Dude,
you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah.
Let me give a couple lines here. Since
Whatever
we're
you're
bringing
imagining,
man.
it's so much worse.
just weird. It's a weird song. All right, Randy, what are we doing here?
It's fetish shit, bro, and that's no kink shame, bro.
True.
Whatever.
True.
it. There's two
I have a
things
daddy kink.
There's two things I know for sure. She was sent here from heaven, and she's daddy's little girl.
Jesus Christ. This is... Are we fucked up or is this song fucked up?
One part woman, the other part girl.
God damn.
As I drop to my knees by her bed at night.
No. Fuck.
All right, let's get into. Let's get.
Oh, my daddy's face.
Let's get it right.
She licked my asshole a little bit.
Hope not.
Oh no!
It's my
Oh, you
first
shouldn't have said that, Matt.
That was from your boy Heidelberg from the
Shaboy
was it
Hydraberg.
from the daddy's
I can't
mouth
keep
right
them straight
there.
anymore.
Straight
from
daddy
the daddy's
bird.
mouth to your brain.
That's a gnarly ice cream cone right there. God damn.
You don't want any of that one. Okay, anyway, Rotten Tomatoes. Here's how this works. Normally, I will have these two gentlemen guess within the best of their abilities between 0 and 100% what the aggregate score is on RottenTomatoes.com for the movie in question. Unfortunately, is everything okay? Justin just lost his fucking mind.
I just saw another line.
What does it say? You gotta read it. You gotta read it now.
You know how much I love you, Daddy, but if you don't mind, I'm only gonna kiss you on the cheek.
It was a marriage to the beast.
What the fuck? This song is fucked up.
So
God damn.
damn.
Oh my
Bob
god.
Carlyle's fucked
There's-
up.
maybe
dude.
maybe all the bombs crying about the song are crying for entirely different reasons that I never understood.
Jesus.
Damn. All right. I'm going to leave it alone, Rotten Tomatoes.
Okay, Rotten Tomatoes. Unfortunately, this movie only has 4 reviews, so there is no tomatometer rating on it that will give. So I'm going to default over to the user score. There are fewer than 50 ratings, so it's not a big sample either, but there is a score there. So what are you guys thinking that the users, the audience, thought of this film? Start with Rob this time.
I think all the daddies weighed in here and rated this high as fuck. So I'm gonna take a 76%, please.
All right, 76. Soju, what about you?
That's probably a good guess. 50. I'll go a scotch lower, but I think it's probably going to be in that realm as well. Give me the 70 deuce.
72. All right, Bobby, you're going to take this one. This week, you're a one and done. 79%.
Yeah, I'm one with the daddies. Yeah. I have a daddy kink.
We know, Bob. We know. Oh my God. So yeah, we don't. Justin, I wasn't getting too high and mighty on your throne there because as we
I support incest.
God damn.
Randy, don't make me bring out your bumps now.
Oh, don't bring out my bumps, Diddy. Oh.
We rode those pretty hard while you were out a couple weeks ago.
Just like that pony.
Sure, I'm sure. So yeah, there are only 4 reviews, like I said, and they're all positive. So I guess it's technically 100%, but they don't even list it because of such a low sampling. And so there's no negative reviews to read. I'll just read one positive review randomly here. This says, it's a fascinating look at how a filmmaker can become so obsessed with something it destroys his life, which I fully agree with. The problem is, of course, still the ending to me. That's the part that I can't really get over it.
Can't do it.
I don't know. Just can't fucking do it. But yeah, that's pretty much Rotten Tomatoes.
Fuck. All right. Solid 79%. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Let's go and jump into our trivia.
It's totally time for trivia.
All right, there was just a scotch on this, but the first one was super interesting, so I figured we'd go ahead and do it. Let me get off these lyrics before I lose my shit again.
The fucking song, man.
The viral marketing campaign for this film was so successful that the Blink Man legend was included in a book on local folktales called Haunted Ellicott City. Is that how you... Ellicott City, thank you. By Shelley Davis Wingnut.
Nailed it.
Yep, I'm killing it. After the book was published, director Eric Christopher Myers, good lord, what is wrong with me? Reached out to the author to let her know that
Eric Myers.
Eric Christopher Mears.
Christopher?
Reached out to the author to let her know that he had concocted the legend as a marketing campaign for the film. Despite Myers' concerns that she would be angry, she said that I thought it was genius. The footage for the student film was shot on 1080 film and re-uploaded through filters to create the found footage effect. Ooh, that's really boring. There's one more. Let's see if it's interesting. The original footage for this film was over 3 hours long. Damn. The final conversation toward the end, where the cameraman is turned off by a Frankenstein mashup of unused footage from deleted scenes that may or may not end up in the director's cut. Oh, are they talking about doing a director's cut?
I guess.
Oh, okay. The final conversation toward the end, where the camera is turned off, was a Frankenstein mashup. They didn't put the comma there. Was a Frankenstein mashup of unused footage from deleted scenes. Okay, I see. Gotcha. Man, I really do wish I had seen that extra footage at the end, though.
You go back and watch it.
You can
again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is on Tubi.
It's a good shot. It is what it is. I
can pretty much
talked all about the ending, right?
I guess.
Oh,
but.
I was going to bring this up. I completely forgot to mention this, but okay, really quickly. The part of this movie, even if you take this movie sort of at face value, is like, okay, so it's all real. If you take it at that point, there are some plot holes. And the one that I immediately thought of was not only are like half these people missing, like we talked about, like, oh, we couldn't even find this news report that they filmed from a camera.
Yeah.
But not only that, but in that news report, the reporter announces like in this, she said something along the lines of like, in this house just this morning, Feldman was found dead, and there's no first or last name given, just Feldman. So
My
I
boy
was like,
Feldman was dead.
if you think this is real after that, you are out of your fucking mind. Like, there's no way anybody would believe that shit. Anyway, but yeah, so little things like that. But I just thought that was funny.
Tight. You know what time it is. It's time to go hunting. We're talking Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'! Cooter of the week!
Juice, what is a Cooter and why are we hunting them?
Cooter's a character type and a straight, chillin' exclusive. A Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter. We want the Cooter with the most points. 5 points are manipulation, smug arrogance, sexual deviance,
sexy deviant.
Yes, overall patheticness and overall look and attire. Boys,
I like your hat.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of characters in here. I think we might be able to snatch ourselves up a Cooter though.
Oh my God, is there any doubt?
Yeah, you want to go with Gavin to kick it off?
I like your hat.
Let's first, talking about hat, let's nominate for look and attire first.
Was he driving a cab? What's he doing?
This man,
dude, that hat. And
this man is not a 1940s paper boy. He's just not.
It also had like a matching tie at one point, I felt like. But the outfit that he was wearing did not justify a tie. He like reminded me of Charlie Kelly sometimes.
Kind of, yeah.
Interesting.
Like, I don't know,
man. The whole thing.
Okay.
He was, yeah. So yeah, like his attire certainly. I think though that there are many more points to come. I don't know about you guys, but by about minute 5 of knowing this character, I turned to Becky as we were watching. I said, "I'm pretty sure we found the Cooter of the week. This is our guy. We can go ahead and put this guy on a watch list because he's going down." And I think that holds true. He's not only got the attire going, which is an easy sell because they definitely put that cabbie hat on him as an indicator you should not trust or like this man. Instantly on sight, untrustworthy, unlikable. But on top of that, you've got patheticness. Certainly a pathetic story about a man who has completely sold his family down the river, and it's just fucking horrible. Honestly, it's just bad adulting, as they say.
Overall, like patheticness, I guess.
Yeah, he's killing
because he just like is not taking care of his family, and the little money that they do have that they borrowed from like their in-laws, he's blowing on like sound design. Which even the sound designers are like, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Because if it's supposed to be found footage, like, why are you paying to have us clean it up and make it sound good? I don't, it's just, it's kind of funny. Like everybody who was an actual expert, so like the sound design guys were like, you're being stupid.
Bigfoot, man.
Then the director who actually made a successful found footage film was like, you're being stupid. Pretty much everyone just calls him a dumbass.
And even people who believe in supernatural, telling him he is stupid. And it's like, they rallied that too. And I would say that one critique I have for the Gavin characters, I love his story or whatever, but it's like, you really made this guy so unlikable. That it's difficult, not just as a protagonist, like not just as a viewer to watch as a protagonist, but he's so unlikable that nobody could ever believe him. He's not even believably, like, I think he's a little unbelievable in his adamancy. Like, I think they should have given him a little doubt on camera.
Well, that was another hole that you brought up with the society, because they were like, hey, let's test this out. If nothing else, like, let's test it out. And I was like, okay, let's go up with the camera, which he ultimately does. And if you believe it so much, just do the experiment again.
Just do it with the camera. You don't even have to look at it.
Yeah. I guess unless you were, if you really believed it, I guess you could be really scared that you would ultimately die.
Yeah.
Then I guess. Well,
also, I mean, put it up for people to review. Like, that's the whole thing. And if people think it's fake, then people think that's the thing, is like a journalist, somebody, like, it can still be an interesting and monetarily worthwhile venture if you meet people as equals on the playing field and allow them the chance to play with it. You know what I mean? Or like, don't lead them to an answer. Let the answer find itself, and just, let people be part of the process of that. People make money doing that sort of thing. Alternate reality games are like a huge fucking thing for people. They don't necessarily always make money, but these are things that people do and engage in, and you can get a community doing that sort of thing. But this guy's so dead set on making the Blair Witch Project that he's not able to see that. And that's interesting.
Also, manipulation.
Who does he manipulate,
Yes.
though? If you believe that he thinks it's true, who's he manipulating?
He's
intentionally
He's trying to manipulate the audience that are going to eventually watch his film, because he is he's choosing to show certain bits of footage to them.
Yeah.
And not everything. And he's cleaning it up, like we said. And he's trying to make money. He's actively trying to make money.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's some manipulation going on there for sure.
I definitely agree. Every documentarian in the world tells their side, tells a story from the perspective that they choose. So that's not unfair. It's not totally fair to say that he shouldn't have a point of view on the situation, or that he can't present things a certain way. But if you're showing the footage and you're actually trying to prove that something is real, you have to show all the data, or at least release all the data. And the thing is, he's not showing the data because there are things that absolutely ironclad contradict his story, like the fact that these kids are known to have faked things before.
Yeah.
That is covered directly in this movie. That is manipulation of the audience, and it's on a level that is not has no journalistic integrity.
I guess that's
so. If your goal is to make money, then it's a smart idea. But if you're trying to be a documentarian, then it's not a smart idea at all.
True.
That's 3 out of 5 right there.
Is he?
Yeah. What are the other two? What are we missing here?
Sexual deviance really going on?
No.
What about somebody? He's arrogant in the worst way. Yeah.
Yes. He's arrogant with nothing to say about his own arrogance. He's just he just gets mad at people and starts being like a petty child anytime he's challenged.
Well, it's arrogance out of sheer desperation. Like, he actually needs these paranormal people who really only have 8,000 Facebook followers, and because they're not believing him, he's like, "You fools, there's no orbs around here," and just starts tearing them apart. The smug arrogance is,
he also beats the shit out of a bush with his hat, which I thought that was really funny.
Don't film this.
Yeah.
That
goes and starts tearing down the guy who makes the books. What do you do? What you just make these stupid books and nobody cares about, or whatever. It's just damn, dude.
Yeah, there's ways you can challenge a person that doesn't believe. He's like, "Oh, so you don't believe it's real? Okay. Well, what if I show you some of this footage and you can tell me what you think about that? What do you think this could be?" And just get their opinion. That's your job, is to get their opinion. It's not to get pissed at them when they don't tell you what you want to hear. It makes them so fucking unlikable to a reasonable point, but it also is just it's just tough to stick with them at that point, and then to later back off of that and say, "No, wait, he was right all along," feels really hollow to me. But yeah,
I think we got our Cooter. I think we locked him down.
I think he's a 4-star Cooter.
Yeah.
We got a 4-star Cooter on our hands.
Easily.
Yeah.
We got him. Gavin, locked up, booked, throw away the key. Boom. Gentlemen, it's time for the social hour. We're letting our hair down and we're talking about what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Randy, what you been watching?
Well, I actually have not watched a whole lot this week. Just been a crazy week. I will say that I found a show. I've only watched a couple episodes of it, but I like it on nostalgic grounds, called Timeline. I don't know much about who makes it or what, or if it's intended for YouTube or something else, but it's basically I want to say it's 40-minute show that covers a specific year and just all the cultural and scientific and political things that have gone on, in a very broad survey. So I watched a few episodes that were 94, 95, 96, something like that. And they talked about, the OJ trial. They talked about some shit, the NAFTA deal. They talked about Michael Jordan multiple times. They talked about Lisa Marie Presley and Michael Jackson getting married, just that kind of thing. And then they showed they would intersperse with commercials from that era and shit like that. I liked it. It was like a nostalgic vibe for me. So I'm going to probably watch a little bit more of that. I don't know much, like I said, about it beyond just having tossed it on. But it's worth a look, I think. I did watch the second episode of Loki. I think that's going pretty well. I'm really interested where they're going to take that. It's a pretty confusing setup they've got, and I think they're taking it pretty slow with introducing things, but it might be one of those things where it's like you kind of need to not think about the nuts and bolts of how the lore works in order for it to work as a story, which is challenging for me, especially because this whole franchise, like there's like the MCU or whatever, it's not always based in direct reality, of course, but they stick to their internal logic typically. So I don't know. We'll see, but I'm enjoying it for the performances, and it's high quality shit, just like all the other Disney Plus Marvel shows that have come out so far. It's, they put the funding into this shit and it shows. And then last but not least, there was E3 this week, which isn't a huge deal for me usually because there's only a handful of games that I give a shit about, franchises, I should say. But one of them was Zelda, and they released a new trailer for Zelda Breath of the Wild, which part 2, which looks fucking awesome. I'm a little concerned that it's maybe going to be too much of the same game, because they're still using, I think, a lot of the fucking assets and a lot of the map from the original game, but they haven't let me down with a mainline Zelda game yet. So I'm pretty excited. And that got me into playing Zelda Breath of the Wild again. I started playing through, and really not to play. I'm not playing the story. I'm just straight up running around, going to places that I've never been to on my map just to see what they look like, just to fight a Hinox there or whatever, and just moving on and just trying to like lay foot on every inch of the map that I can, because it's such a fucking fun game just to piddle around in.
I did that a little while back where I had played through it. I didn't want, it's a heavy game, but I went and kind of did the same kind of thing where I was like, oh, let me get some of these collectibles, and ultimately got like the OG tunic and shit like that. And it was still like a lot of fun to jump back into, even though it had probably been like a year or two since I played it. So yeah, that trailer.
Yeah, I haven't played it in a while.
It looked pretty good, and like the sky elements, I hope they can maybe justify Skyward Sword maybe a little better or something, which was one of the fucking worst in my opinion. A lot of people like that game, but I thought it was bad. But I don't know. I thought it was a great game.
Well. It's not the best Zelda game, but it's a great game in my opinion.
Really, I hated it.
I can't believe you hated it. I mean,
I really
didn't know it was that bad.
I really did. I think it's like my least favorite mainline Zelda title.
I mean, it's probably mine too, but that's not to say that I hated it by any means. It just wasn't as good as the standard of Zelda that I would like. And I think they hyper corrected that with the second one, or with the Breath of the Wild, I mean.
Sure.
But yeah, as far as the sky stuff, I just hope that there's enough of the sky stuff and other stuff that's brand new, to justify reusing the map assets. Because I'm just a little bit, the whole selling point to me of Zelda is the discovery and all that shit. So if you're not going to have new places to discover, then it kind of loses its edge for me.
Now,
so hopefully there's enough of it.
Here's what I thought. Here's a theory I had about that. The way that the trailer shows, where it's kind of sinking in. I was like, what if, because I got hints of like Skyward Sword with the sky stuff. I was like, what if they do this like upside down world, like Majora's Mask, where
I would love
like
Majora's
it's an
Mask
alternate. It's like the same place. You know how they do it there. And I was like, oh, shit, that would be dope. Because I thought the same thing as you. I was like, oh, is this like kind of the same space, but they're adding like a height level or whatever? But then when they were showing like it was falling or sinking in or like whatever, I was like, oh, fuck, are they going like to the upside down or something? I was like, ooh, that would be fucking cool.
I really would like. Majora's Mask is still one of my favorite games of all time. So like, I think that if they went, I especially would love to see, and I know this is like it doesn't have to be this, but I always loved that they took like a really beautiful and whimsical game and gave it a dark whimsy in Majora's Mask. And I hope there's some of that going on. That first trailer certainly seemed like it, but this new one seems like it's going more like bright and sunny and whatever. They can still go dark with it thematically and have a lot more to do that's not just in the sky, that's dark settings. I hope for some dungeons. I'm praying for some dungeons.
I think they will. I think so.
I think so too. They listened to the audience real well when they made Breath of the Wild 1, and I feel like they're going to hopefully listen to some of that this time as well. But we won't find out until 2022. So
Bob, what's your favorite Zelda? What are you thinking about all this?
I really love all of the Zelda games. My favorite's the Zelda Yellow.
Yeah, Zelda Yellow.
Zelda Yellow. Oh yeah, with
Yeah.
Pikachu. Yeah,
Classic.
That's the one. It's the best.
that's one of the classic Zeldas.
I know it. Don't we all know
Zelda
it?
Yellow.
Tight. Juice, what you been watching?
Dude, I legit have not been watching anything. I did finish up The Confession Killer, which Randy had mentioned before, recommended. I had started it, finally finished it up. A lot of Jacksonville, or at least like references going on. There are some
A lot of mentions, yeah.
scenes where they're actually in Jacksonville or where people show up at Jacksonville. And actually like one maybe interview or two that took place in Jacksonville, which was super interesting. I was telling Bob, we joked, about Otis Toole, Uncle Otis, who is in this documentary, who was a serial killer and who lived in Jacksonville. My grandparents were telling me today during our Father's Day kind of get together that when I guess that was going on when they first moved to Jacksonville, and they actually received a like strange call one night from somebody they didn't know, who was like cursing them out, like, you murdered all of those people, like your family's disgusting and stuff like that. And then like it scared my grandmother. She was like, what
are you calling a cootie queen, you lint liquor?
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting just to hear them talk
That's
about
nuts.
it today, because I was telling them that I had watched that documentary, and so they were just kind of talking about it from their perspective. I was like, that's wild.
Did old Uncle Otis ever give you butterfly kisses?
Oh. Nope.
Give your Uncle Otis some butterfly
cheeks,
kisses.
Oh my lord.
God damn.
But that was a that was a good recommendation from Randy. And I do plan on doing a mini cast on that one eventually. Other than that, we were watching Dave the other night. It was I got like some pretty good chuckles out of it. I don't know if it's something I would seek out, but it was fun for just a bunch of people around and throwing that on. And then we watched Joe Bob, and so I got to see Little Shop of Horrors, the OG. And also too, listen, that's the first time I think I've ever watched a interview with Roger Corman, and that was super interesting. Actually, that dude, who was like, what was he, 95, 96?
Yeah, 95, yeah.
Was so sharp. I was blowing my mind how on point that guy was at such a like old age. So I actually really enjoyed that. That was like my favorite Joe Bob episode this year. They like went out with a bang. That was really, really solid.
It's a fascinating dude.
Other than that, I have not been really watching anything new. Bob, have you been watching anything this week?
Not much, man. It's been a crazy week. We watched Joe Bob on Friday. He had the double feature, both Roger Corman movies, Little Shop of Horrors from 1960, and then he also showed Humanoids from the Deep, which we have covered here on Straight Chilling. It's cool to hear Roger Corman talk on both of those movies. Outside of that, I revisited Iron Man, Iron Mang. Solid ass movie. Obviously kickstarted the whole MCU situation we got going on nowadays. But that's about
Better
it.
and worse.
Yeah, that's really all I've been watching. It's definitely a light week for Bob. Without further ado, we got one more segment. We're getting into our Hotline Screams.
Hotline Scream.
Bob, I just looked over at your blue selection and see that you purchased Peninsula.
I did, yeah. You know what's even worse than that?
What?
I still haven't watched it.
Yeah, I see it's unopened.
Yeah.
I told Bob that was a terrible film.
I told Bob. Bob wants to
Why
find out
don't you
for
base
himself.
all of your purchases on Justin's opinions?
You're just so anxious to find out for yourself that
man.
it sits unopened.
Hey, would you forgive me if I give you a nice little butterfly kiss?
No.
Butterfly kisses on your daddy's little face.
Little face. My dad's got a real little face.
He's got little face, but them eyelashes are
He's got one of those little faces,
huge.
but a big old head. I don't know what to do with them.
Them lashes are fucking. We got.
We need Meat Canyon on this shit. Stat.
We got shitload of voicemails. We got 4. First up, also, like, if you're listening, you want to call in, leave a voicemail for next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. We're going to hear about all these weird-ass butterfly kisses from all these people.
Hey, boys.
What's up?
Sweet 16 today. She's looking like her mama. A little more
God.
every day.
Oh my
One part
God.
woman, the other part girl.
Dude, that song is fucked. God damn. Fucking
I
Bob
support incest.
Carlisle over here. Jesus. Get the fuck out of here. Oh, my daddy's
not
tiny little face is so tiny.
Turn 16.
God damn.
I would not like that version.
I did them already.
Yeah.
Walk beside the
Dude,
pony,
I might
daddy.
just reach out to
It's my first ride.
Meat Canyon. That dude's got to take this on.
Meat on the track. We got to get meat on the track.
Meat on the track.
My boy Meat.
I don't know why that hit me.
You got to get meat on
Got
the
my
track.
boy Meat on the track.
It's my first ride.
Do you think Meat Canyon is actually red meat?
No.
Our boy Red Meat.
Man, we do not need to go into what the fuck you're talking about now.
We knew a real person that
Named
liked to
Red
be
Meat.
called Red Meat.
Yeah. Yep.
His daddy gave him butterfly kisses. All right, we got we're hearing a voicemail from Jack.
Here's they.
Let's hear what Jack has to say.
Howdy, straight chillin'. It's Jack once again, a resident mystery caller of this podcast. I haven't listened in a little bit. I think today I listened to the Conjuring episode, the new one you guys released. I've been on vacation, so I haven't been able to listen to the new episode. But that was the last time I called, and I think I scared your guest or something. I think he said something like my voice sounded creepy over the phone. I am not a serial killer, by the way. I'm actually a very nice guy up here. I don't know what to say. If my voice creeps you guys out, I'll consider it an honor, considering it's a horror podcast and all. I must say, I liked you guys' episode on The Conjuring 3. I saw it in theaters. I did not pay for my own seat, so it sort of worked out in my favor because it was kind of a meh movie. I sort of agree with Juice. I feel like they should have focused more on maybe the legal aspect of it all. Maybe not even show us the entire sequence of events and have it revealed in courtroom. That would have been way more engaging. Regardless, I'm not a huge fan of the Conjuring movies anyhow, so it wasn't really a loss for me. I did notice that Christine lost in your guys' monthly poll, but hey, you'll get around to it someday. And I like Rubber. I think I saw it once really hammered. Something about a tire, I'm not entirely sure. And if I remember correctly, Bob requested that we leave a prompt asking you guys for advice, which I'm happy to oblige to. I don't really have too many issues. Generally, I'm trying to work towards what I aim to accomplish in life, but I guess the only advice I'll ask of you, because from briefly knowing you as 3 random podcast hosts, you all seem like pretty different individuals relatively. What do you guys do to stay genuinely happy? Whether it be little or what you focus on overall in life, just what have you found that meshes and makes you feel a sense of accomplishment and general joy in every day? For me, it's appreciating little things here and there, like a good sandwich or like a sunrise, but I'm always intrigued to hear other people make it through the slog. So, generally, how do you stay happy? What do you guys focus on? I'm assuming it's the podcast because we all know this is premium entertainment. Thanks, guys. I'll check in on you. Maybe check in that new episode. Peace.
And that's it. So let me quickly answer on Rob's behalf.
I have a daddy kink.
That keeps Rob going. We know
Yeah.
this. It's really the light that keeps his heart in flame.
That and also cocaine is a hell of a drug, Jack. Let me tell you.
Damn.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Like, I would say the podcast certainly. Like, we have a nice little community going on our Slack channel. We get to, everybody's real good to each other, and we get to have nice conversations about stuff. I don't know. I think it's a bright spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with you there.
I'm trying to think of things outside of this, though.
It's been great, growing our community and shit like that. And it really is a joy to partake in that. Outside of that, just like generally speaking in my life, I spend time with a lot of people that are super cool and supportive and loving and helpful. And I think if you are able to do that, spend time with those who care about you and inspire you. I think that's definitely a good way to go about it. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. I know how Randy stays happy.
Fill me up, Diddy.
That's definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Randy likes being filled to the brim.
I like to get butterfly kisses from behind.
From Diddy.
Damn. You got eyelashes on your butthole, son? That's weird.
That's the way we do it in Europe, baby.
The old brown eyes got the lashes. The brown lashes.
I think
The no, it's not the lashes.
I love ass to mouth.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Randy loves it.
Anyway,
There really is a lot of ass going on there. I don't know. I think like going back to serious question now. One thing that I kind of enjoy in life is having sort of like one or two little like personal crutches, not crutches. What's the word? Personal endeavors, I guess.
Prostitutes.
So like for a while, for 1 year example, like in 2018, I drew a picture every year and posted it to Instagram. Maybe like 15 years ago now, I gave up pork because something I read made me sad. And I like having that as a thing that I control. You know what I mean? Having one little item that I control. And then recently this year, since the first of the year, I've been doing push-ups every day and working my way up to the higher amounts by every week, adding one on top, and sit-ups as well. So like just one way to like make sure I have some bare minimum, a bottom for my physical activity because I have a sedentary job. I like doing that sort of thing. It's not like an immediate happiness. I actually kind of hate doing it because it's exercise and fuck that. But the long term, I like that I've done that every day. I like that I have control over that one aspect of life no matter what. So having sort of like just something you pilot always is a nice thing to do.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I like to have like little goals always. Like there's always something to work towards. So similar to Randy, like where there's this thing where you can control, but it usually is like, even if it's not huge, it's something you're working on that usually like to better myself, kind of like the push-ups or something like that. But it's usually like I think we're designed in a certain way growing up to where that's the case. Like you go from first grade to second grade, or even from like test to test, and you kind of always have these goal structure in your life. And then you get to a certain point in life where they're like, you do whatever you want. And I think a lot of people struggle with that without realizing that might be the problem of like, I'm just floating now, like, and sometimes you get into autopilot, like, oh, my job, like I've been doing it for years. Like I'm not really thinking about it. And I think just having those little goals that you kind of set yourself, because once you accomplish them, and it doesn't have to be a huge thing, but you get that sense of accomplishment, you are able to look back and say like, that is how I spent my time well. And I think that makes you feel good and stuff like that. So that's something that I kind of gear in my life. It's just always there's some kind of goal to accomplish, and then it goes to something else. So
yeah. Advice
Totally
time
agree.
with straight chilling.
Boom. Nailed
Solid
it.
question, Jack.
Randy, you need to take the sound back.
Take the sound back.
Take the what?
The sound back.
Justin took it from you to play those bumps about how you like to eat ass and stuff.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great.
You got it.
But yeah, call in and let Straight Chilling solve your problems. Well, that's what we're here to do.
That's
That's what we do. Next up, we're gonna hear
This is
from
not advice.
we're gonna hear from our boy Tom. Let's hear what Tom has to say.
Man, I don't know what it is. It's just like I don't actually like any of these Batman movies. I don't like Batman Forever. I don't like Batman Robin. Yet it's just like they're all bad movies. Like I don't understand why people are coming in so hard to defend Batman Forever at me. I mean, it's a bad movie. So is Batman Robin. So is everything. Juice, thank you for burying that. Randy, what are you doing? Man, but it's a great movie. Come on, man. All right. I don't. You know what? I take it back. Randy, you're doing great. I don't want to start any other feuds. I also have more people coming at me in the Slack and voicemail. Jesus Christ. Bob, this is your fault.
Listen up, brother. We got blood. A bay of blood. No, that's fine, man.
Bay of blood. Bay.
I think I was pretty fair to that movie, but you know, people gonna disagree, and people gonna not like Batman Forever, and that's all good.
I think Randy needs a little more shade, to be honest, because me and Tom had a little thing. Bob's been having a little thing with Kyle. Randy's just been getting off scot-free. So
That's
somebody
right.
call in and hassle Randy.
Everybody shit
I'm
on
impervious.
Randy. Just shit on him. He loves it.
Oh man, buddy, welcome to my high school experience. Fuck you. I got this shit on lock.
Fuck.
I don't even have to blink when that shit happens. It's just part of my day.
Randy doesn't blink because he sees.
I don't like getting butterfly kisser
only on his butthole.
Hey,
on my butthole today.
You got another
boys.
Hey,
another line.
Are you going to be able to read this without cackling?
Oh, with all that
Are you
I've
gonna
done wrong.
It doesn't look like it.
I must have done something right to deserve her love every morning and butterfly kisses at night.
Jesus Christ.
Every morning.
Deserve a love in the morning.
Fucking Bob Carlisle.
We're on a schedule every morning.
Digging that hole deeper and deeper, man, with every line you read. Jeez.
Now imagine this was written by Ariel Castro, and you kind of got the idea.
God damn.
Sounds like Uncle Otis wrote some of this shit.
Thanks for calling, Tom. Much love.
Unky Otis.
Call in and shit on Randy, everybody. Next up, we're going to hear from somebody.
That's the prompt for next week?
Somebody, I don't know.
Here we go.
Randy!
Hell yeah. That's the best voicemail we've ever gotten. Solid Randu.
That's the one. Randu.
Randu says can do. I love it. Thanks for calling in, mystery caller. That's a hearty Randu. I love to hear it. Last but not least, we're going to hear from that salty bitch Kyle. Let's hear what he has to say.
Hi, Bob and gang. This is horseshit. Bob instigated me calling, and he's not asleep yet, which is weird. And I don't know if like amphetamines became legal in Florida, but this is ridiculous. I've been up like every episode of Joe Bob's The Last Drive-In, and now I'm losing money, and I'm not butthurt. Maybe I am. Maybe I am butthurt, but like this is ridiculous. Like, come on, Bob. You know you want to go to bed. You're like fucking 33 now. The joints are going. You got to stretch before you do shit. Like, go to bed. Just take a nap. Do shit old people do. Even though I'm 34, so yeah, we're in a similar boat. But anywho, it's in all seriousness, it's been so much fun doing the Last Drive-In with you guys. And thank you so much for having us be a part of it. It's been great. I plan on leaving more voicemails. I've been a lot more vocal recently, and I hope to continue. Granted that Randy doesn't do fucking baby bumps and goes back to pumpkin bumps like we all want. Just saying, I'm the voice of the fucking people. But anyways, we all appreciate it. This has been fun. Like, you guys are great. I really enjoy seeing like what the next half a year, 5 years, whatever it comes to, like what we have in store. It's been a blast, and I can't thank you guys more. You guys have done so much for me during quarantine and during all this pandemic nonsense. I am truly indebted to you guys, and I appreciate it so much. Keep chilling. Domino's is better. Pizza Hut blows. Tell Bob I said that straight from Kyle's voice. He's probably calling me motherfucker right now. If he hasn't called me motherfucker yet, he's going to. But anywho, love you guys. Keep chilling. Take care. Bye.
That was a hilarious but anywho moment.
But anywho, motherfucker Kyle, everybody. Who likes Domino's over Pizza Hut? Fucking psychopaths. That's who likes Domino's over Pizza Hut. Fucking Uncle Otis probably slammed Domino's like it was going out of style.
Look, as long as we can all agree that Papa John's can suck shit.
Yeah, they kind of can suck shit. Regardless, thanks for the kind words, Kyle. It's always a pleasure hearing from you. Joe Bob was fucking a blast. Season 3 was a lot of fun hanging out with all you guys, and I'm sure he'll come back and do like something for Halloween, and we'll have another watch party. But until then, we're gonna take a little bit of a hiatus from the watch parties. Fucking Kyle, yeah, I stayed up for both movies this Friday. I was tired
Bob,
as
what
shit.
a
Wow.
Yeah, I did kind of nod off here and there.
Did you really do the bare minimum? Holy
I did.
shit.
The bare minimum. Fucking staying up to like 2 o'clock in the morning. That shit is hard to do. God.
I know it, buddy. I remember the sleepovers growing up. This has always been your...
That's true.
You've never been the guy that makes it all the way through.
No, that's not me. That's not me at all. I'm a sleepy sumbitch. When I'm tired, I go to fucking bed, son. Anyway, that's interesting for everybody to hear, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Again, if you guys are listening, want to call and leave a voicemail for next week's show, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Let Straight Chilling solve your problems. That's what we're here for. That's what we do.
That's not what we're here for. We cannot give legal advice.
No, Randu says can do. That's the line. That's the company line.
Randu!
You made a bump out of it, or did you just play the... That needs to be a bump.
What?
You got to make a bump out of that.
We'll see. I can't give the people what they want because then they do this.
Oh boy. Actual audio from Kyle whining. Anyways, that does it for us here this week at Straight Chilling. We're going to be back next week with a brand new show, as always. We're going to be tackling the winner of the June poll, which was Rubber.
I am excited to talk about that.
Yeah, that's a weird-ass movie. Slam your eyeballs into Rubber, which is about a sentient tire, before next week. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling. Hit us up on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join on our Slack channel, hit us up on one of our social media outlets. Let us know, and I'll send you a link to join in on the daily conversations. And until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.